Glenn Carle, the Hamas used in this attack some very unconventional attack choices, using paragliders to get across the fence, knowing where the observation posts were, using snipers to take down those who were on the observation posts, using pipelines supplied as material from Europe, turning them into Qassam rockets. Is this the level of finessing you think the Hamas as an organization is capable of? Or do you think they're really getting the help of proper military minds, whether it's the Iranians that we know in a proper inquiry, but do you think it's almost inconceivable that a terror organization could do something like this?
Well, we shouldn't really think of Hamas as a terrorist group. If what we think of when we say terrorist group is a small number, dozens, perhaps in the low hundreds of almost always men who are planning to blow up a bus or kill someone with a drive-by shooting or something to that effect. Hamas has always been much more than that. It engages in terrorism. That's a component of what Hamas does, but it's also a governmental de facto leadership, a political leadership, a social organization, and a philosophical movement. I put that in brackets too. So they are capable of doing and engage in terrorist actions, but then they also have a more conventional kind of military aspirations. They seek to be much more than people recognize them as being on the whole. That they have these conventional creative military capabilities at the level of training of individual combatants up to tactical and even strategic planning and capabilities is not a surprise at all. That they were so creative and successful obviously was a surprise in this instance. But otherwise, there's no mystery that Iran has been providing assistance and training for years and years. Now, that doesn't mean, and I think the evidence indicates that Iran has not been directly involved in this attack, but creating the capabilities in Hamas to do something like this, sure, that's not a surprise.
So, given the fact that Israel has such high-end human and technical intelligence capabilities, and that this wasn't a lone wolf attack, this is an attack with multiple fronts being opened simultaneously, how is it, according to you, Glenn Carle, that the Mossad, the Shin Bet, just didn't read all the dots that were being formed on the wall? I'm told by some geolocation experts that some of this training was happening as close as 4 kilometers from the fence that Israel has erected.
Well, sadly, tragically, I think actually this is an easy enough question to answer. During my training 40 years ago, I spent a number of days with the United States Marine Corps, as all of my fellow officer candidates did in the agency at that time, because the Marine Corps is responsible for providing the protection of official American facilities overseas, embassies. And the single problem that they had to deal with and must deal with every day is routine complacency, boredom, and then lack of attention to detect the abnormalities that are the central point that intelligence services and security services have to look for. When you have 15 years of watching the wall, all of the measures you take cannot really overcome the almost unavoidable complacency or slow decline in the acute attention that one can pay when one's adrenaline is flowing. So I'm not surprised that the Israelis got caught short in this. Of course, it's a terrible thing. These are tragic mistakes with oversights with hideous consequences. But that is the single largest challenge for anyone providing security.
General Hasnain, we see this happen oftentimes during counterinsurgency operations or even during deployment on the line of control, where complacency sets in, or a particular Paltan or the troops that are out near the LOC just start getting fatigued, or they start believing that nothing's going to happen, and that is oftentimes when things go terribly wrong.
Absolutely, Rahul. We are subjected to what are called bat actions very often by the Pakistan Army in the pre-ceasefire days. And this was something which used to always keep the Indian Army alert. But despite that, there were moments when we were caught napping. I think one of the ways that we tried to overcome these issues was to create a belief among most commanders that the obstacle system was not impenetrable, that zero infiltration was never possible, that there will be some kind of an infiltration which will take place, 10%, 5%, and that we have to have a layered system. Now, in the case of the Israeli system, which I have visited myself and seen it, outstanding thing, it is not a layered system. Israel does not have the kind of depth to create a layered system. The system which we have on the line of control, which I have been commanding for years, is sometimes almost 50 kilometers wide, in which we have 4 or 5 lines on which we can actually limit infiltration coming in. So this is a major lesson. This is something the Israelis need to look at very seriously, because they believe perhaps that their wall or their system created through the wire obstacle is absolutely impenetrable.
Nothing is impenetrable. I think that's a good point you made.
You can have a music festival happening at 3 kilometers from the wire obstacle is something that just shows that complacency had set in.
Now, N.K. Sood, the Indian state is trying to build at this moment the capacities of the research and analysis wing and the intelligence bureau at this moment, with no disrespect, nothing comparable to the Shin Bet and the Mossad. And yet an attack of this nature happens. From the perspective of India's intelligence agencies, what do you think are the most important lessons we need to learn right away, given what happened with the Mossad and the Shin Bet?
Actually, all the intelligence agencies all over the world, whether it is CIA, Mossad, RAW, or maybe KGB or anything, they are all dependent today on technical intelligence. Their human intelligence is failing, or they are not giving special attention to human intelligence. That is the reason why Mossad failed. And our adversaries or the terrorists, they are today more smarter. They used to use mobile phones, now they are not using. They used to use internet, they used to use Facebook, and even email, Gmail, Google or Gmail. Now they are not using that. So it makes our job difficult, and we have to find other ways. You see, the Mossad has a strength of nearly 7,000 people. That is a small country, and RAW, on the other hand, hardly has a strength of 10,000 persons. And we have disturbances all along our border, whether it is Pakistan, it is China, or even your northeast, or even you can say our sea coast, which is 7,516 kilometers long. But otherwise also, we are otherwise very cautious. I think we are doing well. We are building our army, we are building our navy, but I think our intelligence needs to be built up more. Today, we used to be very defensive all along our period. Now, for the past few months or maybe a year or so, this system of intelligence that has gone offensive, and that's why we are more protected than even the Mossad or Israel. But there's a lot of things that we have to do or learn. You see, India was responsible for the security of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. We knew that ISI will kill them, and we specially took care that he is not killed. But when he was killed, it was 15th of August 1974. That's when our RAW chief, R.N. Kao, he used to be holidaying only 2 days, where it's 26th January and 15th August. So in this case also, to attack Mossad, to attack Israel, they chose especially October 6 or 7 when they were celebrating. But the disturbing factor is that they had been training. They had sent 1,000 jihadis on training. They were training in different fields. They were training in arms. They were training in paragliding, and not only in Hamas, but they were doing some training in Iran